Hello everybody, this is Papkins. I'm here today with a watercolor painting for MerMay. I did my painting today on a cold press watercolor paper by B Paper. It's 140 pound, 300 GSM that I cut down to a 4 by 6 inch postcard size. And the prompt was Disney from a list made by Camille Pfister on Instagram. Sure, she's doing a MerMay list called #SeeGirlfriend, so you guys can check that out. Her prompt today was Disney, and instead of drawing Ariel, which is the prompt that which is the character that I went with, instead of drawing her traditionally, as a fan art, I went with a more inspired by approach because I'm not so great at drawing fan art that looks exactly like the characters. It's just not really my thing. But sometimes I do, but usually it's when I'm so totally obsessed with with the characters that I love drawing them. And I tried a little bit something different. Normally I ink my line art before I paint, but this time I decided I'm just going to go ahead and do my line art with the actual watercolor paint itself and go for a more sketchy, softer look. I was seeing if I could pull it off. I didn't quite pull it off how I thought I would, but I still liked the final outcome. Oh, and I have to say that I had thought about doing a bell mermaid, but for some reason I just couldn't come up with any other like creative ways to do it. So I was like, let's go with good old Ariel. Redheads all the way. I love redheads. So you'll see that I'm painting, and originally when I decided to do this, I thought I'm gonna do the entire piece just red and gold, which I didn't end up doing, but I started out with that intention. So I'm doing all of my shading here with the red color, and then I moved in and started using this gold pearlescent watercolor paint by Coliro. And I really like this stuff. I just got it, and it comes out so much nicer if you put it against a dark background, like a black paper. And that's actually what the company recommends also. But I thought, hey, I'm still able to use this. I'm still going to use it on the white paper and see how it turns out. And you'll notice that partway through, I actually taped down my piece. Don't be like me. Don't tape down halfway through or partway through. Tape down before you even start. That's naughty me. I had originally just intended it to be kind of a sketchy piece, but when I started adding more water, I knew that if I didn't tape it down right away, I would start to buckle. But luckily, I didn't buckle. Yay me! So anyways, I continued on and decided that I needed more contrast. More contrast because why? The red and the gold just wasn't quite doing it for me. I did do all of my shading with the red and then continued on and decided I was going to add a indigo or a navy blue. And I also decided I was going to darken up that sun or that moon because the gold was just still too transparent. So I went from the gold pearl Coliro color to the Arabic gold Coliro color. And you'll have noticed before I added the darker gold, that the texture of the paper is sort of a alternating broken line texture. It was quite interesting to paint on, but I knew right away when I touched it and looked at it before I started painting that it wasn't going to be something that would give me the results I wanted if I used a lot of inking like I normally do. So that's why I decided that right away I wasn't going to ink, which I did add in some light ink work later, and that comes later on as I move through the piece and decide that, contrast, I need more contrast because I'm so used to inking. So at this point actually, I decided that I wanted to try to up the contrast in another way. And I did that by using the Staedtler fineliner in a purple color and adding a sort of filigree half border. And as I was doing that, I was like, it needs to be more. It needs to be filled in just a little bit. So I added some darkening inside the filigree, and I also, of course, once I pick up a fine liner, I can't help but continue inking. So I inked a little bit around her body as well. After I was done doing that, I realized, you know what? Let me take that purple and carry it around the piece. So I decided to add a third color. So actually, I guess that's the third watercolor color other than the gold. So it was red, indigo, and then a purple. And then if you count the gold, I kind of consider the gold not quite a watercolor paint. So after I added the purple, I really wanted to add more red because my original intention was for the main colors to be red and gold. So I wanted the red to be the richest color. But I think in the end, the red and the purple kind of balanced out, and the red wasn't the dominant color that I was hoping for. It was kind of an even split between the red and the purple, but I still really liked how it turned out. At this point, you'll see that I grabbed another pen. It's actually a Tec C gel pen in purple. It's also water soluble, just like the Staedtler fineliner. I went with all the two pens that I used, I went with ones that were water soluble because I knew that if I added them in and didn't love the lines, that I could soften them up with the water, which I really wanted to do because I still wanted to keep the overall piece soft. Ultimately, I ended up adding way more line work than I thought I would. You know, I added some hatching that I softened and some lines all through the hair. And then finally, I tend to always go back at the end and nowadays add a white highlight areas with the Copic White that I water down, and I use it like a gouache paint. Luckily, since it is also water soluble, if I don't love where I lay it down, I can soften it out and remove it. So it's always one of my last steps. I try to leave white highlights whenever I can, you know, by not touching those areas of the paper, but sometimes I get a little carried away. You'll notice I went in and added another layer of the Arabic gold because I still wanted it to be really, really rich. And then finally I took my Uniball Signo white gel pen, which is super thick, and added some dot work because I love dots, 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 dots. And I wanted it to look all glistening, you know, like there's water glistening spots. So I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I'll be sure to try and include some of the descriptions of the items that I used in the area down below. And you can see more of my MerMay over on my Instagram at Pabkins because I'm really new to the YouTubing video thing, so I won't be doing videos every day. But you can see my mermaids every day on my Instagram. So thanks so much for watching.